All right, Wardy, hit me up. Hit me up with those thoughts on this matchup.
Well, Clem ShoWTimE has been a real treat every single time we've seen it so far this year. It's really been time and time again that match where you know it's coming. If they're both lined up in the ESL Open Cups and they're on the same side of the bracket, they're going to meet. Sometimes if they're on other sides, they got to get to the finals. That doesn't happen, but every time it's so much fun. Sometimes Clem just comes in and shows up in 3-0. Sometimes ShoWTimE does, but they're never like one-sided games, right? They're like really back and forth series, even though one player is just better on the day. But sometimes they show up and they play these 5-game series as well. I mean, I remember at one point Clem was playing a mech style on Eternal Empire, and we had like a 45-minute game of like Carrier Disruptor versus Thor, and you know, the spawning points basically changed instead of top right, bottom left, we're top left, bottom right, and they've really just played so many great games this year so far, and I think it really is impossible to give any prediction on who's going to win this going into a game on any day, because honestly, they're both really good. It really depends even maybe how they're feeling, how the first map goes, how they get a feel for the series. Lots of, there's so much to take into account here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm super excited to see how this one goes. I was even just looking through like their match history and stuff, and like some of the events that they played, and not just like the ESL Opens recently, but they played in your Balance Test Mod tournament and everything. So a lot of times they face off against each other. This is going to be kind of like the breaking of the tie that they have in series score and tournament victories. But one of the things I'm really excited about also is I feel like stylistically, playstyle wise, when I think of ShoWTimE, I mean, it's the wall, right? He's an amazing defensive player in a lot of ways. But even when I think of Clem, he's kind of the opposite. I always think of extremely in-your-face aggression when I think of Clem. So I really, really just enjoy seeing these two guys face off against each other.
No, you're totally right. Clem is that guy. He'll drop everywhere. He will get on the map. He will always be trying to fight you. But that's what's so fun about Clem, because he doesn't do it in like an all-in kind of way a lot of the time, right? He does it in a way that he's got 4 bases behind it. He's already building his 5th command center. And that's terrifying. You know, you're playing this big game against someone who's never stopping, and it's never going to stop, because this is what he can bring to you while he's macroing up. So imagine he actually does all in you and how terrifying that could be.
All right, well, ShoWTimE going to continue to send this Adept Shade up. Depots are raised in time, so they're not going to allow that Adept to get up into the main base, but denying tiny bits of mining time, getting some scouting information. That's all that ShoWTimE is really probably expecting to get here. But he's actually going to encounter one of the Hellions already, so that's a nice little scout. There aren't any more Hellions being made behind this right now, though, so it's just that single Hellion with a Reaper. Yeah,
the opening here, just a little bit of information gathering for Clem. ShoWTimE side of things. He's just getting into that blink. Very standard game between the two of them. You know, neither player looking to be overly aggressive. ShoWTime's looking to just put on a little bit of, pressure with the Stalkers, get up to a faster third base. But then you've got, across the map, Clem starting to cloak, and he's going to go Banshees, so there will be some harassment in the early moments.
Oh, what are your thoughts on, like, the Cloak Banshee opening PvP? Because you just don't get it as often as we... Oh, my God, we'll have to hold that thought. Reaper does get picked off. Oh, the force field timing is perfect over here. One probe will end up falling. I feel like that's got to be all that he's going to be able to get here. Yeah. Nice defense there from ShoWTimE.
It's kind of okay, though, as well, because you kind of see a couple Stalkers, you see a Sentry. This is all, these are all things that say, okay, I'm probably not going to die soon. He sees the timing of the rover at the front. I think Clem gets a good enough scout of this. But to go back to your first question of the cloak in PvT, it's definitely it can work. And I think in the hands of someone like Clem, it can be really good, even against Blink Stalkers. What it does is it doesn't necessarily have to kill probes right away. But the threat of Banshees keeps Stalkers at home, and especially if you can move those Banshees around so the pros doesn't know which base they're going to hit, then all of a sudden, you need to keep a lot of your Stalkers at home. So it gives you a lot of freedom as the Terran player, takes away any of the Blink Stalker pressure, which is obviously just great around the board.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. It kind of reminds me as just a lower supply single medevac that a Protoss player has to deal with, where the medevac is sitting over in that dead airspace, or it's kind of moving around, and you're like, I have to just have all of my bases covered. I have to be so on point with checking on the minimap. And, well, Banshee is able to make it to that dead airspace that I was talking about. So now, yeah, you just have to commit Stalkers over there while another Banshee makes its way out. But I love that the Adept for ShoWTimE is right at that front door. It actually did see the Banshee moving across the map. So if ShoWTimE was paying attention, should know that the Banshee was there. And now also knows that the Marine tank push is coming.
This is nice that ShoWTimE has some Stalkers on the map, right? Because that's what the Banshees are meant to do. They take the Stalkers away from being on the map, so this push gets across more easily. But ShoWTimE's found a way to be able to get some on the map, and this already slows down Clem's attack. You're not going to siege up straight away on the third. Question is, can ShoWTimE defend all the other Banshees? And the answer to that is absolutely going to be yes. Shield battery, Stalker's in position. Banshees won't go down, but they don't do any damage at all.
Yeah, and ShoWTimE has already actually forced Clem to just retreat back. The one C-Tank might be a little bit vulnerable. There's the blink forward, does manage to snipe it off. Loses a single Stalker in exchange. I think that's going to be an exchange that ShoWTimE is more than happy to make. Even forces a siege up over here while picking up a few Marines.
Yeah, that's a nice little CG forces once again. It's just great, right? Because whatever Clem wanted to do here, now he just can't do it. Even if he gets across the map and sieges up and trades out, that's something which Clem looks at as a positive, because if you trade out with the Stalker count, that's extremely expensive to rebuild. So the fact that these Stalkers stay on the map is really, really good for ShoWTimE. He doesn't have to rebuild them. He can fully focus now on Immortals and Charge Lots and all of those gateways of production. And that obviously really powers him up going into the mid game as he grabs him at Rhoda.
Oh, really, really nicely done there. Loving the blink control so far from ShoWTimE. Now the Banshee's going to make its way back in. There's no shield battery at this one, but look at that. ShoWTimE already realizing it. And oh my god, actually the shield battery's a little bit further away, but two Banshees are going to be able to one-shot those workers for a bit. Picks up 4, loses the Banshee. As long as you keep one Banshee alive, it's still kind of annoying.
Yeah, and at this point, the Banshees have kind of done their initial job anyway, so I think Clem is quite happy just to get a few kills. And the Stalkers are now not on the map as Clem pushes across, and this is a lot of bio units against a Protoss who, if ShoWTimE getting that +1 armor, that helps a lot. It's the perfect timing for the Warp Prism, though, straight into the main as Clem's way far across the map. You can't just turn around and deal with this. You have to keep going.
All right, Widow Mines are going to try and deal with these Zealots inside the main base. A friendly fire splash. A lot of these SCVs, they're all in the red, so they're going to be dying very quickly to those Zealots. At the same time, the Siege Tank getting taken out extremely quickly over here. ShoWTimE going to force shield some of this Bioforce away as he warps in another round of Zealots back at home. Shield battery overcharge, also keeping them alive for a bit. And looks like most of the Zealots have been cleaned up, but 12 workers is nothing to sneeze at.
No, that's a lot of SCVs already going down. Remember, Clem's only just landed that third base. Grabs the Robo, though. Will get the Cyber Core as well. Couple nice pickups here to start off as Clem continues across this side. Couple Widow Mines connecting, but he will lose the Medevac. And that means this entire army will go down because it can be chased. I mean, you can run and run and run, but you're going to end up losing so much because you have such low HP on every single unit. Yeah,
as the Stalkers blink forward and the charge goes off, they're just going to start one-shotting all these units that have stimmed themselves to death at this point. But Clem is retreating back to the safety of some of the rest of his army, some of those reinforcements, burrows a Widow Mine safely there. And Clem, he's got a third base. He is mining effectively from it, but man, just that worker damage that he took earlier really, really hurting. You can see only 6 workers at that third base right now, and ShoWTimE is moving across the map. Morty, I'm afraid that Clem might actually be in a situation where if he can't defend this next push in here from ShoWTimE, that's going to be his first map drop this entire event.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. He's going to push in right now. ShoWTimE's to that third base under attack as the bio. I mean, what bio really is there? It's just not enough to cleave through all the Zealots, and ShoWTimE lost 7 probes to that Banshee. He only gets a couple SCVs here. ShoWTimE will back away. He'll give Clem some space, but only because he's now adding in Archons, and ShoWTimE is very comfortable moving forward. Get an extra High Templar up. He's going into a 4th base, extra gates. ShoWTimE's like, yeah, I don't need to run up a ramp to chase this. Even if he's just pulling his SCVs away, that's a win for me.
Yeah, Observer's going to spot out this army, sieging up in a spot right there to just keep an eye on everything and also detect any Widow Mines that are burrowed. He does actually notice that the army is just sticking around over there, so he's trying to rotate around, and the Marine that is going for some scouting information barely misses it. And ShoWTimE also goes for some more Warp Prism harassment. This time, though, I think that Clem is pretty well prepared for that. Is he going to be prepared for this, though?
Yeah, he's out of position. Now he has to run up the ramp, He has to defend his naturals. He has to run up the ramp. Here, ShoWTimE will have to split up a bit. That's a decent EMP on the Immortal, but I mean, he's going to have one more EMP. I just don't think there's enough EMPs. But then again, there maybe isn't enough Zealots to go both sides. And ShoWTimE's doing a lot of running around. The thing is, he's got Zealots in the main dealing so much damage during all this. They're even now killing off the Ghost. 1 EMP from each Ghost, and that's it. I mean, that's just not valuable enough.
Yeah, oh god, the Widow Mine's even actually friendly fire splash damaging some of the bio in the main base. The Archons going absolutely ham on that Bioforce. Still the Warp Prism is alive. Still it's been able to evade that pesky Widow Mine. And as soon as this Bioforce runs a little too far away, this is exactly what ShoWTimE does. He just goes to the third, forces a lift up, and going to be able to kill a few more of these SCVs.
Man, the Zealots in the main base feel like creeps that just continuously spawn through the game, and Clem is just getting overrun. He has nothing to do with that. ShoWTimE is able to pick up the first map of this best of 3. Fun game.
Really, really fun game there. And I gotta say, that's kind of a little bit of what I expected to see, where ShoWTimE is defending against some of the Banshee plays, defending against a lot of the other random things that it seemed like Clem was trying to do. And then at the end of the day, he just finally finds that opportunity to push across the map, continues to defend a bit back at home, and just demolishes Clem's army after finally finding that one avenue to attack into.
Man, this was kind of a weird one, right? Because it just felt like Clem kind of fizzled out really quickly. And it just kind of goes to show how well ShoWTimE did everything. The fact he never let that Marine tank push get across the map is really nice, because like I said, if those Banshees are able to keep the if those Banshees keep the Stalkers at home and that Marine tank push sieges up, it's a completely different game. And it's part of the reason that Clem is playing such a late third base, because he's expecting to get a good trade out there. He's expecting to be able to deal some damage. And he didn't even get to the halfway marker of the map. And then, the next fight as well felt like Clem got a couple good pickoffs, but he stuck around way too long. You lose all the medevac, your bio is in the red, you lose so many units trying to get away. And then you just don't have the prism, the way to deal with the prism in the main, with the fact that obviously there's so much else happening as well.
Yeah, and I feel like even just that push in that Clem had done at the north side of the third base, we kind of caught the tail end of it, but there were like tanks on the front line that the Stalkers were able to blink onto. The bio had already kind of started stutter stepping pretty far back. So I feel like a lot of the firepower got sniped off so quickly there by ShoWTimE that it kind of made that defense very, very one-sided. So few things that it seems like Clem might be able to try and adjust, but are there any major things that you'd want to see done differently from Clem?
I think you just go for a different build. I think this wasn't really Clem making mistakes versus ShoWTimE just played a really good game. And so Clem just kind of fell in trouble. Again, like I say, maybe you could have, the bio and the medevacs being lost was obviously a major part. And then maybe you change up how you approach something like that. But it wasn't a bad move to go in there, right? You get the Robo, the Cybercore. It's a really difficult one to say, oh, no, don't do that. It's just, you got to know your boundaries with someone like ShoWTimE. He thought ShoWTimE was out of position. He was, just not out of position enough.
All right, well, we're going to get moving into game number 2. It's going to be a fun map as well, especially a strange one for PvT. We're going to be starting down over here in the bottom left-hand side of Golden Wall. On top of the red Terran player, he is Team Liquid's Clem.
Taking on the blue Protoss on the bottom right-hand side, this is ShoWTimE.
As a side note, I just love that ShoWTimE's team name abbreviation is BIG, aka Big.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just so appropriate for someone of ShoWTimE's stature.
They honestly just missed a mark, though, not getting Hero Marine. He could have been Big Gabe.
Big Gabe. Oh, that's beautiful. I guess another, big or like huge or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's a cool team to have, picking up a StarCraft player though. To talk about the team a little bit, right? They're big into the esports. They come in, they are focused in Germany, so pick up one of the best German players out there. It's the kind of sponsorship that you love to see.
Okay, well, we're going to end up seeing a small little probe scout over here, the usual shebang, but it is worth noting, I believe this happened last game as well. ShoWTimE going for the Gate Core Nexus, which I feel like has just been making a pretty nice comeback in the meta lately.
Yeah, it's just the way to go, right? Like, it's just good. Like, you barely delay the Nexus, the speed at which you get the unit out gives you so much pressure across the map. It's, you just lose so little for how much you gain, basically.
Yeah. Oh, this is really annoying. The bunker going to be coming up over here. The Reaper should be able to make it to that bunker and try and protect it against a few probes. And that's not a full wall off now, right?
Yeah, it is, right? This is usually like a 3-gate wall if you want to fully wall in. So I guess that's a complete wall, but SCV is not going to do anything, even if it goes to the other side. The other probe was there. So nice idea. I liked it, but obviously just didn't quite work out this time.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I really thought that Reaper was going to be able to get there in time, but Well, the SCV still moves into the main base, scouts out a pretty normal looking setup over here from ShoWTimE, confirms both pylons inside the main base. ShoWTimE sometimes might throw out a cheese here and there, but usually it's going to be that macro fight that you expect out of him.
Yep. Just very, very standard stuff. I'd be super surprised to see ShoWTimE change up too much in this series. Definitely just expecting a lot of Blink openers, maybe Stargate with like a Phoenix opener one time, but I know he feels like that's just so abusable. If the Terran figures it out, they can do so much to fight it. If he does kill off this Reaper, that is nice. Again, I feel like if there's ever a player to lose your Reaper against, it's probably ShoWTimE, because like you just said, you kind of just expect him to macro anyway.
Yeah, well, this first Stalker and the Adept are actually making their way across the map now to try and find what's around. Now, remember, the Adept can shade behind that mineral line. There's only 2 Marines out right now, and it's going to be the Reactor finishing up just now. A single Hellion. There's a little opportunity to get something done over here, but usually not a whole lot. I am just wondering, is that bunker... It's like maybe 1 or 2 hexes further south than I'm used to. So I'm just wondering if the Stalker can kind of fit up that ramp and get behind the mineral line or something if he wants to commit a bit.
Just too risky though, isn't it, right? You get caught in there with the unit. Yeah, I think the bunker is... You're right, it's kind of... You usually kind of have it in front, but this is just a bit easier and quicker to get the SDVs to. It does allow the Protoss to come up the ramp before they have to fight though, so if it was something like a big Immortal bust, that might actually help the Protoss player a little bit. So definitely like worse in some scenarios, but in this case, completely fine.
And probably not going to matter as much because it's going to be a pretty quick 2 more barracks being thrown up with an engineering base. So Clem should have plenty of bio to try and get into a good position, help defend against anything that ShoWTimE might be throwing at him. ShoWTimE grabbing his own 3rd Nexus and getting a Blink. So pretty typical play, like you were saying.
Yep, really nothing to be kind of, going crazy about, right? But it is maybe worth going crazy because there should be a really cool game. We're getting a bit of macro out of both of them. Again, Clem is on 3 racks very early in the game, like you mentioned, so he can start to apply the pressure himself. He's not going for that super fast 3cc style or anything. So definitely wants to get on the map, and with the Raven up, I do wonder where that Raven will come into play. Obviously, we see a lot of Raven play when it goes across the map and drops auto turrets. But against someone who's going Blink like ShoWTimE is, who's then going to go into charge as a follow-up, the most the Raven usually can do there is like an anti-armor missile. So we'll see if that's what Clem really wants to do with the Raven or if there's something more planned.
Yeah, usually interference matrix and stuff can be effective if you are up against like Colossus or something, or, even a couple High Templar or something can come out and interference matrix them, or a War Prism. But yeah, in this situation, I feel like anti-armor missile is going to make the most sense, especially with how gateway heavy a style ShoWTimE has been playing in the earlier stages. But single Hellion comes on in, roasts 1 drone and backs on out of there. I think it's the same Hellion from the earlier stage of the game, right? He just repaired it back up, sent it back out.
Yeah, it shouldn't be any different. There's no reason to build a second Hellion.
It's a cute little move and getting some value from that, confirming the 3rd base and everything. But big gateway flood is now coming on forward, so this is kind of that point where in about a minute or so, that's when ShoWTime's finally going to start building up a much larger army, getting up some of those charge slots, and then he'll start having a really big presence out on the map, I think. But for now, it's really just the Blink Stalkers kind of poking forward. Yeah,
just, that's all it's meant to be, right? You take that fast 3rd base, you let that economy build up. That's the whole point of this. Clem is just going to go across the map with this Bioforce. So obviously a lot of differences from the last game, but the big thing is he didn't race around like Marine tanking this time. He really did just go straight for those 3 racks in the bio. So this push is a little scarier because it does get across the map more easily. It doesn't get forced to siege up. It doesn't get slowed down by the Stalkers. It has the Marauders there. They're great against the Stalkers. And Clem going to use this push now as an opportunity to take the gold base in location as his 3rd.
Oh, this is going to be a risky push out now, because this means that, in a sense, this offense is also kind of Clem's defense right now. He's got to make this a good trade, otherwise he's not going to be able to defend that gold base. So far, Widow Mines both getting picked off pretty quickly over here. I feel like ShoWTimE, he loses a few Zealots, maybe some hit points, but this is not going too poorly for him. The Raven tries to go around, and it is not going to be able to find an opportunity to do a whole lot.
Yeah. There is just no way in there at all. The Stalker's out the front. But again, as Clem sets up on that gold base, he doesn't necessarily need like trade big time here. He just needs to keep his army alive, and this is now obviously starting to pull you in positions where you can put ShoWTimE out of position to get the drop into the main base and find a success story with that as well.
And ShoWTimE's doing a great job with these little spotters. The Zealot even managed to survive. He has an observer on the south side of the map that should spot out the double medevac drop coming on in. So how is ShoWTimE going to be able to react? He's seeing the double medevac drop, but he also knows that the army is moving into his third base. He's got Stalkers in position in his main, but his army is a little bit late to the punch on the third.
Yeah, I mean, the Zealots get over here. If the auto turrets continue to go down, he won't do much on the third base. Clem, he gets 3 probes. He might get another Stalker that he's trying to get into the main. But again, ShoWTimE's defense is just so good for your Dragon. That's how you meant to break him at this point. Well, lag him out.
Yeah. The wall holds strong right now, Wardy. It is definitely a tough spot. Well, Clem, I mean, do you feel like he's pretty committed to making that aggression happen? I know you were saying, like, you got the gold base, but it's really just keep your units alive, right? Just don't lose your whole army.
Well, the thing is, you got to look at where he's at right now, which is he's actually only down 4 workers, which is actually really good because you usually expect as the pros to be about, 10 workers ahead because of mules. And then he's got the gold base on top of that. So he's actually in a really good position in terms of eco. So especially against this star ShoWTimE's playing, right? He wasn't on a lot of gases very quickly. He's only just the second starting up Storm. And as long as that is what's happening from ShoWTimE, Clem was never really meant to deal damage. This push deals damage if ShoWTimE goes straight to Colossus, maybe. If he goes straight to Templar Archives. But he didn't. He played very gateway heavy. So ShoWTimE's setup is designed to defend and then tech up, which means that Clem is completely fine to not deal damage. If you keep your units alive, that's obviously the main part, because then you're built up a little bit later. You can get those ghosts out, and you can just go into like a really strong macro game as we get this resumed and see if that's what Clem is able to do.
All right. Well, yep, game is resumed, and we're going to see Clem starting to poke forward again. He did get forced back with the double medevac drop, like we were just seeing. The third base still has that small little army outside of it. He's going to go ahead and throw down a scan, confirm that the army is still there. You also see is those High Templars that are around, and the fact that they are not morphing into Archons should also potentially reveal that there is going to be Psystorm on the way. So Clem goes to the triple medevac drop through the Stalkers, taking out the Immortals, taking out a lot of this army, and he actually draws a majority of ShoWTimE's army up into the main base. Is this the time to hit the third? Oh my god, it looks like ShoWTimE still has a lot of army left as the third. This is a perfect split for ShoWTimE.
Bio loading up, and ShoWTimE again continues to just hold this pressure off. So doing a fantastic job of this right now as Storm is going to be finishing in a few moments. The +1 attack going to be done as well. I mean, again, it's ShoWTimE. He's gotten to that Storm safely, right? That's the whole point of what his build was meant to do. But Clem is setting up to deal with this. Getting a 4th base, Ghost on the way out. He's matching in upgrades. So again, while it feels like Clem's not getting anywhere, it's important to note that it's just, it's kind of what Clem's build is designed to do still, right? So don't worry too much about him. As long as he can hold this big attack, this is a real kind of moment where it's like, did he maybe lose just a little bit too much? Can ShoWTimE do this just as he gets High Templar up? There's actually no ghosts right now. These are just the first 3 about to spawn. So this is the real kind of telling moment, because also Clem has so many units still out on the
Oh my god, the Widowmines, almost none of them burrowing in time to get any shots off, and this is such a Zealot-heavy composition right now that is going to be a bit brutal. I really think just 1 or 2 Widowmine shots would have made a world of difference in this fight.
I mean, Clem's just got, like 40 supply of units and medevacs around the map doing absolutely nothing. I mean, these 2 medevacs just fly back over the army. Somehow ShoWTimE doesn't get them and just recall home. Yeah, that's nice. You cancel the 4th, but obviously you're canceling the 4th to have your own 3rd base pushed back. This is the thing, right? Clem's unit should have been there much faster on the counterattack, because he has a long time where ShoWTimE moves across the map. That was his prime time for ShoWTimE to be out of position and to take advantage, but he didn't, and that means he doesn't have the army to defend his 3rd, and now Clem absolutely is in a bit of trouble.
Oh man, almost gets the Warp Prism, which would have slowed down this retreat, but still a few storms left over. Clem really has to respect that, as he has to walk through some of those defensive storms as ShoWTimE is on the retreat. But like you said, ShoWTimE going to be able to warp in 5 more High Templar, reestablish that 4th base. This medevac drop might be able to get something done. I don't even know that the pylons are just now finishing, but immediate cancel on that 4th base. So Clem finally getting a few strikes back here.
Couple pylons cleaned out in that upper right-hand side. Big bio push from Clem through the center. As you see High Templar Archon Stalkers trying to get up the ramp here. A couple of EMPs available. Potentially go down, and those High Templar are kind of clumped, right? And that's what Clem sees. That's what he's looking for. He goes for the snipe for the extra range, and he gets the High Templar, which have the storms. I mean, that's the way to stay in this. ShoWTimE floating a lot of money. He's just able to spend that. this might be a very different story. This should be a lot easier for him than it is right now.
Yeah, 2K minerals in the bank right now, really hurting at this point. Now, it does seem like the drop on the north side does get pushed back, but again, the fourth base getting slowed down. Clem is really just buying himself so much space. I do want to note that we finally did have another upgrade actually finish up over here for ShoWTimE. So a +2 armor upgrade going to allow these Zealots to survive just a little bit longer versus Clem's attacks. And Clem's still a bit of a ways off from his own +2.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a little bit behind on that upgrade, but he will catch up, right? And then he's not too behind on the upgrade after. Denying the fourth base so many times is fantastic because this is, Clem got his own third base relocated. So now it is starting to become an issue for ShoWTimE, especially as he's going to be outnumbered here. Can't recall back to this fourth base, so he'll just continue to send some units across. He will bring some units back home. Okay, he has a recall to the third. This feels like such a weird mix. He's just going to send Zealots everywhere to try and deal some major counter damage, which he absolutely needs. And he's going to get it on that third base, Fear Dragon.
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely. Baron third base right there. Nice dodge on the EMP with the Warp Prism, keeping all those High Templars nice and safe, but even the Warp Prism not getting too low on hit points. Now we end up seeing a lot of the Medivacs actually going to be pretty vulnerable over here in the retreat. A lot of them going down to the Archon splash down. Big storms coming in from the high ground, demolishing the army of Clem.
That's so many units dying, and now you're on a chase against these Marauders. A few storms could blink for Medivacs as well, so it's definitely dangerous. There's the boost away. And ShoWTimE will not get too much more. But remember, he killed 18 SCVs during this, and that's kind of the damage he needed. He has some momentum now. I feel like he needs to use it, because if Clem can settle down once again on 4 bases, that is scary for ShoWTimE, who's just starting his own fourth. But I do love that switch in tech to Colossi as well.
The Colossus tech switch is going to be really difficult for Clem to deal with. He actually lost a bunch of Vikings during some of those earlier fights, but I'm wondering where he... Oh, Widowmine? Oh my god! Oh, 4 High Templar, right? I think the High Templar was still... Or was it Zealot? Did you swap them out?
I think it was just Zealots going to the main base, right? And that's why it was separated away from the armies. But it's still bad, because that is this Warp Prism that would otherwise have High Templar, so it's Robo build time to rebuild it, and you're trying to switch into Colossi. The last thing you want to do is to lose your Warp Prism and have to rebuild that and eat up time on that Robo facility.
I'm really worried right now. All right, Wardy, I was worried that ShoWTimE was going to be waiting too long for the Colossus to pop on out, and Clem was going to settle down into the fourth base, get a Planetary Fortress up, and it looks like ShoWTimE is going to be hitting seconds after the Planetary Fortress is away from completing. A couple of the SCVs are going to start repairing this Planetary Fortress, buying some time. A lot of the Zealots have already used their charge on the Planetary, and it is going to be able to stay alive at very high hit points. An Archon or two also falling down. ShoWTimE at a bit of an awkward angle. It seems like a pretty wide open area, but it actually ends up being a bit of a choke with where Clem's army's positioned.
Yeah, it's kind of weird for both of them though, because ShoWTimE doesn't want to run into this because of the EMPs, because he gets too clumped up. And I think that's his real issue right now. He just doesn't want to be there. He's going to get sniped from the high ground. Beautiful position from Clem. He says, you can storm me from the high ground. I can snipe your High Templar from the high ground. Really cool to see that position being used so much.
Yeah. Oh, these rocks are going to be very awkward. I actually wouldn't even hate if Clem just knocked him down just to open up the pathway for him to move down that ramp. But we end up seeing potential engagement being teased at over here. Ghost gets an EMP off successfully on one of those High Templars. I only really see 1 or 2 High Templars with Storms left over. The Warp Prism does make its way into the main base, and this is another repeat of that first game. The Zealot warp into the main base is what completely threw Clem off. Is it going to happen again? Clem not looking at his army. He actually reacts a bit late. Stim up comes finally. A few EMPs have gone off, but most of the Ghosts are on the front lines and are actually getting picked off.
ShoWTimE's running out of Zealots, though, so he backs away. His Disruptor's starting to show up as well, still distracting in that main base. ShoWTimE, man, now he's spending his money really well. He had 0 minerals just then as Storms come down across this army once more. Again, the Archons are good for tanking, but you don't really want to trade out your Archons. You'd rather get them home, heal them back up. So without a Warp Prism in the army, he just can't reinforce with the Zealots. That might allow him to really keep pushing into Clem right now.
The 1 Disruptor is out, but a 2nd Disruptor is on the way. Still a bit of a ways away from finishing, and then even then, it has to still rally out to the rest of the army. But I mean, ShoWTimE has got a very difficult army to control against Clem's very difficult army to control. So their ability to manage their multiple spellcasters in these armies is going to be so key for deciding who's going to be able to take a win in this fight.
Zealot's going to go charging in. The EMP's available. Drops double anti-armor missile. Man, this Raven has been alive all game. We've seen like nothing of it for like 10 minutes. And ShoWTime's probably like, wait a sec, he's still got the Raven? Got some storms again. Clem's army is consistently on yellow health just because there's so many storms dropping down all the time ahead of every single one of these fights. ShoWTime, he kind of feels like he should fight this. He's going into a concave though, and it's dangerous to fight that. The Disruptor doesn't really do enough. The second one will get a good connection in the end, and that should be Clem. Probably thinking about backing off, especially as there's more Disruptors. He just has to keep this engaging, but it is a good set of fights, and he pushes ShoWTime away from the 5th base location, so he might just be able to run up here and get a quick kill.
Wow, I mean, a lot of really back and forth trades over there, but yeah, you're right. He did inch his way forward. He got a bit of a positional opportunity there, but it looks like ShoWTime's able to make it up the other side of that ramp successfully. Oh, a straight High Templar coming in for a surprise storm. Does actually soften up a few of these units. You look at how low on hit points or energy those medevacs are, and also hit points. Oh, Clem, gonna go for the YOLO move, just says, well, your whole army's over here. So what if I just go to your main base where you're absolutely 100% not? Even finds both of the robos, gonna be able to snipe both of them off in a matter of seconds. This is gonna be a huge, huge problem right now for ShoWTime. He should have a recall available, but he doesn't have energy at that base that is getting dropped right now. And it's just turning into a 3-way base trade.
Yeah, he just wants to... I think ShoWTime has the right idea as well, because going back home now, you've already lost so much of your tech. Clem's just gonna lift up and run away. I like the idea of base trading, but it's obviously still a bit weird to some extent. It might be nice if he can kill 2 bases and he protects this base. Let's see if he can, because Clem's army is split up, right? The army from the natural has to come to help out over here. Vikings are going to land. Is there anything to help fight the Vikings? Honestly, I don't think there's enough to fight this bio off.
The Disruptors are buying a bit of time. There's more Zealots coming in from the top right-hand base. More Zealots also being warped in right now. Yeah. One Disruptor does manage to survive, and there are a few Templar threatening a storm. There's another, I think, EMP or 2 of those ghosts available. He gets the magnificent EMP, takes out any threats whatsoever over there, takes out the Archon. ShoWTime may have cleaned up the top left-hand base, but he doesn't have any army left over to continue pushing in the natural. And here we have Clem taking out another one of these vital bases. ShoWTime reduced down just to the top right in the main base. That is going to be an unbelievably difficult situation to defend against.
Well, this bio army of Clem pulls back around to the south side. Couple of High Templar warping in. +3 armor setting up 2. You know, I feel like he's just, if ShoWTime can buy enough time, but yeah, he's only got 1 real mining base. Clem's still mining as well. Probably not enough, right? I mean, these Zealots are scary, and in fairness, this army is pretty low HP from Clem, so the Zealots are doing pretty well. Obviously, this is also half of Clem's army. When the rest of it shows up, that's going to be kind of the deal breaker, and that's where ShoWTime cannot continue to fight.
I feel like at this point, there's only 1 ghost out of the map, all right? That's the one place I feel like ShoWTime can make some magic happen. You manage to pick off that ghost with a Disruptor or a feedback or something, and then you get some really good storms with some of the remaining High Templar that are coming out. I feel like that's maybe where ShoWTime can make a really good engagement happen, but I love the way that Clem is playing. It's got a Liberator sieged up at that top right-hand base. Remember, this is effectively the only mining base right now for ShoWTime, so he's got to send Stalkers over there to deal with this. His mineral income is quite literally halted. He's down to just 80 minerals and is barely getting 5 minerals at a time with long-distance mining. Struggling to clean up the Liberator. He finds 1 little choke point there, and the Liberator, does not survive.
Liberator gets denied. Well, it's nice for ShoWTime. You know, that's a win that ShoWTime kind of needs. ShoWTime, honestly, his army is still that little scary until you get the good EMPs off, right? 1 or 2 EMPs and ShoWTime's army just evaporates. And Clem, he's got the money, right? He's got the bases everywhere he needs them. He's got the gold base up. He's got to kite away from this, yes, but there really is just a point at which he can probably just turn and say, oh, I've got way too much. And that's the point where ShoWTime is probably starting to run. Nice Storm will buy a little bit of time. That's a free Archon at the front there. I mean, ShoWTime will turn to try and fight it, but again, the numbers just aren't really here, so he will lose that Morphing Archon. He's going to lose the Colossus very soon. Just doesn't get the kill on it. He tries to target it down, Clem.
Yeah, I think Clem is getting a little bit into the red right now, so it gets a tiny bit scary versus the Colossus and the Archons. Even the Colossus so low, 1 or 2 swipes will soften up the army quite a bit and guarantee a couple of kills. But like you said, Clem has the gold base mining again. He has got that top left that's still mining. This is still Clem's game to lose as we start to see. I mean, it was originally pretty even supply. Then it was around like 10 to 15 supply ahead for Clem. Now it's almost like 20, 30 supply. It's getting worse and worse, and ShoWTimE never has the resources he needs to expand again. Everything is just going into making more zealots to not die. And I think that Clem is finally hitting that point where he's just snowballed a little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? ShoWTimE's like, maybe if he can just about hold on and he overcommits, but he's not overcommitted. And then Clem's mining top left, the gold base as well, so he's consistently getting enough units up. There goes the Colossus, there go the Archons, GG. And what a game from Clem, because he was really in a lot of trouble at points there, Fear Dragon.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about that as we get ready to move to game number 3 after a short little break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready to move into game number 3. We're going from Golden Wall to Pillars of Gold, because this map was just filled with gold, Wardy.
Yeah, filled with gold maps. I mean, honestly, the map pool is really good right now as well, though, right? Like, we've got a lot of cool maps. I feel like we've seen a lot of really cool games on all these maps as well. Really been a pleasure to watch so far, as this series has been a pleasure to watch. Again, like, game number 2 was really exciting all the way throughout. I really felt like Clem... There was that point, right, where he got caught off guard. He had 2 different double drops on the map, not doing anything, and he got pushed. He lost the gold base. In the end, he canceled that 4th base, and that was okay, but that was a good spot for ShoWTimE. But ShoWTimE just fell apart a little bit, couldn't keep his 4th up, let Clem back in, and from there, he was kind of just never able to feel comfortable with his army almost, because Clem was consistently the one forcing fights and taking the better fights.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was also just that point where the base trade kind of got initiated, where Clem moved up along the north side of the map, and then ShoWTimE was moving along the south side of the map, and they kind of, 2 armies crossing in the night. And just in that moment, we saw the most insane StarCraft fights that I've seen in a while, after the recall happens and ShoWTimE has his army surrounded, but then the army that's surrounding him is also surrounded by reinforcements coming in. It was absolutely nutty, and I'm just really enjoying the series, Wardy. I got nothing else to say about it.
Well, we've got some intros to do for you, Dragons. That should give us something. Is in the top right side, our Red Terran is Team Liquid's Clem.
And down here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Protoss player from Team Big. It is ShoWTimE. I'm pretty excited. You know what makes me really happy, Wardy, is that no one went out of their group so far unscathed. Everyone has at least dropped a map. Clem has now dropped a map finally. He was kind of the final holdout, but Raynor dropped a map to Mana. Cyril dropped a series to Lambo. And
yeah,
I mean, Group B is just everyone's dropped series.
No, it's been really fun to watch, right? Definitely shows there's some real contests between everybody. So it's yeah, it's been really awesome. I actually really feel like we've also seen a lot of players. Nobody's going to be eliminated without putting up a fight as well. I know there's some players who are 0-6, but they're also taking maps. They've also had some good opportunities from what we've seen. So yeah, it's been. I feel like the round robin has been a success so far in terms of getting to see all these games and getting to see all these players a few times over in different matchups and, you know, causing some upsets along the way. This isn't just, you know, everybody waltzing through 2-0 in their group into the next group and on and on and on.
Oh, 100%. I also just want to say, like, we do have that proxy SCV over in the bottom left-hand corner, and there's going to be the factory that was sent out to make. But this was still, a command center right after the barracks. So this isn't like the double gas 1-1-1 setup that a Terran player does off of one base and try and put some big pressure on the Protoss player. This is kind of just like the slightly lighter version of something like that, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what you do from this, because you could go, it's probably like Hellion or Widowmine drop most likely. I'm just trying to think what you would go for, because I feel like a lot of the time Hellion drop just works while building the factory at home. The only benefit to that then is that this wouldn't be scouted as easily, because if the Adept Shade gets up, it would see the reactive Hellions, and then it's an option in your mind. But if you see the react on the racks, maybe you're a bit more cautious about it. It does start a Hellion, so it will just be a Hellion drop. And I like that as well, because in my head it makes sense too, because against someone like ShoWTimE, you're like, aha, I've got an earlier Widowmine drop, and ShoWTime's like, yeah, I was still watching my mini-map, right? Like, still control against it. Whereas the Hellions are absolutely, you know, you can't just, you know, pull probes and micro them out the way as much. You know, you can micro to some extent, you still have to get rid of the Hellions. It's not like the Widowmines, which then have that cooldown timer.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. What makes ShoWTimE so scary is he's not just the player that is really, really solid in the defense because, oh, he knows that there's a timing for the Widowmines to come in. He's just very, very attentive to things like the minimap in general. So I remember one of my favorite things was from the Kiev event where we ended up seeing like the Toby eye tracker vision of the different players. And just ShoWTimE looked at the minimap. It felt like every quarter of a second. Like that's probably an exaggeration, but it was absurd. And like all points in the game, it's just so beaten into him. So I actually really agree with that. I think that's a really good point.
No, it's it just, yeah, to me, like, it's just the sort of thing that just doesn't work against someone like ShoWTimE. So I much prefer to see this. Like, ShoWTimE's going to see it right away. He can start running those probes away. But again, what's he got on the map? He's got 2 Adepts and a Stalker. They're not in position. And these Hellions are pretty much guaranteed some damage here already, getting 5 kills up to 7. He's going to line up a few more right here as well, Fear Dragon. And this is far from done as he gets 10. And the Stalker's still struggling to get in range and stay in range. One of these Hellions low, but will not go down. Now you don't have the units on the natural, so you're going to get even more probes.
Oh my god. Okay, that one softened up Hellion gets picked up by the medevac as well. He's saving the individual Hellions. He finally loses one. And the money number was to keep 3 alive because you can one-shot the workers. But this is done. Devastating amount of damage.
20. He gets 20.
What?
And he saves the Hellion for scouting later. Wow. And
he
the
has more
Warper,
probes killed than he has ages lived on this world.
This is how distracted ShoWTimE is. He just rallied his Warp Prism across the map off the Robo rally after an Observer rallied over. That's how long he's been distracted for there. His Warp Prism's meant to be back at home. I'm pretty sure this was such a fast Colossus, he might have even been thinking Gravitic Drive and Warp Prism speed, but he can't afford that with what just happened.
Yeah, we don't even see probes being made anymore, Wardy. It's just the Colossus gateways being added on, and this is the all-in. This is just the follow-up, oh god, I'm extremely dead. Do this now, all-in.
Yep. No, he has to get across this map, and he has to try and do something, because you do not, you know, 10 probes you sometimes macro back out of, right? But it's still bad for you. 20 probes is, you know, you got to consider GGing almost. May as well, with the Colossus, maybe try and get something done, but There's not Warp Prism speed, so you can't reposition the Colossus as easily. There is a Marauder out. These Marines are a little caught up together, but they don't even take that much damage right away. And what you're going to do, elevator up everything into this main base. That seems to be the plan. I mean, you can pull SCVs though as plan. You don't need to keep workers alive. You just need to hold this off, and you're in a fine position, and he kind of knows it. That's why he will just hold the SCVs in. 7 workers killed is nice, but again, this is not 7 workers killed with ShoWTimE trying to probe up back at home. This is ShoWTimE putting everything he's got to win the game right now.
Yeah, I have to commend ShoWTimE. If this was an evened up game, like you said, and there was a transition behind this, I would say ShoWTimE was playing out of his mind well with his micro, and he was in a position to maybe make some real magic happen here. But like you said, this isn't all in. It has to be more than just good. It has to be amazing. It has to be spectacular. And you know what? He's got up a little bit larger of an army. He's keeping that Colossus alive, dodging the Viking shots. The Warp Prism still got a lot of hit points. Snipes off the Viking, but that Marauder count is building upward, and that's the thing that scares me the most right now, is that these Stalkers, the Colossus is going to be vulnerable, but oh my god, is ShoWTimE actually starting to break through?
No, Stim's done. He's just waiting to Stim. And he's going to Stim, he's going to commit in. Now these Stalkers are not going to get out of here. There's only so much micro you can do with that Warp Prism, and everything dies. And Clem